So we are only 24 hours away from the first All Blacks versus France test match, the first of 3 for their series in July, and this one, it's intriguing. The All Blacks, they've gone with a pretty new look starting lineup, whereas the French, they have certainly gone with new look with a number of debutants making their way into the 23, and in this video we'll be looking through at the sides, we'll be looking at key players, also looking at the previous results between the two sides, and then at the end a prediction how I think this match is going to go. But jumping straight into it, like I said, New Zealand making quite a few changes compared to what we saw from Scott Robertson throughout 2024. Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor and Fletcher Null, they will make up the front row, so slightly similar to what we saw last year in regards of Ethan de Groot and Cody Taylor starting. We do see Fletcher Null though in the number 3 jersey. Now since that lineup was announced, we've had confirmation Tyrell Lomax is out with a bit of an injury at the moment. Nothing too long term, but it does give Fletcher Null a massive opportunity to start in this matchup. He will be alongside, of course, Cody Taylor, his Crusaders teammate, and then Tamaiti Williams. Normally you'd see that as a front row, but because of his injury, he is also out of the running for the starting lineup. In the locking duo, it is Scott Barrett at number 4 as the skipper for the All Blacks, and the youngster Fabian Holland gets the opportunity. There is that clip going around on social media, the moment where he got the call that he was going to be in this All Blacks lineup. You can see how much it means to him. He's a massive individual. You can see that by the size of the door compared to Fabian Holland, but one thing that he brings is the line-out steals. He brings physicality. He loves making dominant tackles. We saw that all throughout Super Rugby Pacific, so I do think that at the moment, yes, it's down in Dunedin, so that makes sense that they would give him a starting debut, although they didn't do that for Timothy Tavanawai. In fact, they didn't even have him making his way off the bench. But for Holland, he could actually be one of the keys for the All Blacks heading into that Rugby Championship, in particular the matches up against the Springboks. It's always talked about that height of the All Blacks fullback, but Holland, he has got abundance of it, and also that line-out ability could bode very well for him as well. In the loose forward trio, this is where we actually see another one of the form locks from Super Rugby Pacific. Tupou, he slots in as the number 6. Ardie Savia back at 7, which he did play up against the French last year in the 1-point loss. And then Christian Leo Willie, he will get his debut for the All Blacks in that number 8 jersey. Initially was only injury cover for Luke Jacobson, but then Satiti ruled out of this July Internationals window, which did bring him into the main side, and straight away gets a massive opportunity in that number 8 jersey. In the 9-10 combination, Cam Roigard and Beauden Barrett, actually the duo that they went with the last time that the All Blacks met France. Cam Roigard, one of the 2 try scorers for the All Blacks the last time these two sides met. Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor making up the midfield. Little bit of a throwback to the Hurricanes days only about 1 year ago. Rieko Ioane, he is starting on the left wing for this match. He has often been found at 13 throughout the last couple of years, whether that's Super Rugby or international level, but he gets the big chance, the transition that people have been waiting for. My biggest question with Rieko Ioane though is he's played so much at 13. How smoothly is this transition going to go? Is he going to be safe under that high ball? As I do assume we'll see a few up and unders, maybe a few cross kicks from Beauden Barrett, but if I was the French, I'd be sending up that high ball on that wing quite a few times just to see whether or not Ioane is ready for it. There could be a little bit of rust there, and that's what the French have to try and exploit. And at the upcoming fixture, out on the right wing, this is where we do see Sevu Reece and then number 15, Will Jordan. So the 2 Crusaders in the back 3. Quite a bit of pace across this back line for the All Blacks, so we have to wait and see how that matches up with this Le Bleu side. But looking through at this French team, now I could act like I know exactly who all these players are, but for one, I don't think you guys would be buying it, and also I would rather not just make stuff up for the sake of sounding like I know what I'm talking about. I do know that someone who would have definitely analysed this younger French team as a whole though would be 2 Cents Rugby, so of course if you haven't already, check out his preview of the match. But for me, there are a few familiar faces across this French side. I'm not going to go right through the team, but the likes of a Slimani in their number 3 jersey, we do see him playing for Leinster, not normally given a huge amount of minutes, normally more of a bench player. So a massive starting opportunity here to go head-to-head with Ethan de Groot. In terms of this overall French forward pack though, only one player, and that is in the number 8 jersey, Gilliard, actually had any experience up against New Zealand last year in that match. He did come off the bench in that contest. But across this whole French side, there is only one man who was in the starting side up against the All Blacks in November, and that is Gabin Villiers. He actually did play on the right wing though, because Biel Biarray was out on the left wing, but for this game, Gabin Villiers is actually on the left, so he'll be going head-to-head with Severis. Now, he is an outstanding player when he gets it right. There are times where he can be a little bit invisible in a matchup, particularly when they're not quite getting the ball to him out there on the wing, but when he is getting the ball and he's in form, he can be a very dangerous winger. So I do think Severis will be tested throughout this game, which I think is a great thing for him because he's probably one of the players in that back line I've seen the most criticism for, him alongside Beauden Barrett, in terms of the questioning of why he's in the starting side. But I do think if he does well here and shuts down Villiers, it may quieten down a few of the haters. In that midfield combo, Gaël Fickou playing at number 12 alongside Gailleton, who did actually make his way off the bench the last time these two sides played. They also have Legaric as the number 9. He made his way off the bench in the last encounter between these two teams. Unfortunately, the only thing I've heard about him as of late is the fact that he's very good at diving, but sadly not just over the try line. Off their bench, not a lot of notable names for this French side, but that sometimes can be a good thing. This is a very unknown team to these New Zealanders, which can bring a few surprises along the way. They've got Cameron Waki as well as Roman Taufifenua off the bench though, so that might add a little bit more stability to the French line out a bit later on alongside Bougeret, who does play at hooker for La Rochelle. So I'm excited to see what this young French side can bring. I know that there's been so much criticism towards this team all throughout this week, all throughout the last few months. But for these younger guys, this is a massive opportunity. And for the All Blacks, they still have to beat them. At the end of the day, the game has not happened yet. And if New Zealand were to lose to this young French side, I don't think the French would be the team getting the most critique. As Scott Robertson, he's made the big switches, and he would hear a lot about it if they didn't pay off. Off the All Blacks bench, they have got a couple debutants in Ollie Norris, as well as Duplessis Karefi, and then the three Chiefs backs were Cortez Ratama, Damien McKenzie, and Quintu Paia. So a little bit of cohesion and chemistry later on in the fixture. But those are the starting lineups and reserves, ladies and gents, looking through at who the key players are for these sides. For the All Blacks, one of the players who I think is actually key, he's been talked about a lot, but not always in a positive light over the last day or so, but that is Beauden Barrett. As much as some people don't like the fact that he is starting over Damien McKenzie, he's in there now. They're not going to be changing it. And Beauden Barrett, his unpredictability could actually go very well for the All Blacks here, because you've got a young French team who haven't spent a lot of time together as a cohesive unit. You've got Beauden Barrett, who loves chipping, who loves going for those random kicks that sometimes don't work, but when they do, and if they can find space in behind this French backline, they could actually be very dangerous and could lead to a lot of points. For this All Black side, you've got Will Jordan, who will chase after the ball all day, every day, just like he's a Labrador. You've got Cam Roigard, who's got plenty of pace next to that breakdown, who isn't afraid to put the body on the line. So as long as the All Blacks are aware of what Barrett's tactics will be throughout this match, could actually work quite well and could go in their favour. In that forward pack, key players, I know it's his first game, and I know that it's not good to put this much pressure on a youngster, but Fabian Holland, if he has a standout performance here, he probably books himself a starting spot in the Rugby Championship, although that also is dependent on what Tupou does in the number 6 jersey. If they can't quite perform at the blind side, they may look at a bit of a reshuffle. Perhaps Samapeni Finau goes back to 6. Perhaps we even see Scott Barrett take on that 6 jersey, as Scott Robertson has made it clear that he will be looking at locks as a possible loose forward. But Fabian Holland, if he does what he's done throughout the season for the Highlanders at international level, he should do pretty well in this match down in Dunedin. And then the last key player for the All Blacks, I do think it's going to sound like I'm going back to Ian Foster days, but I'm going to say another Barrett. Geordie Barrett in that number 12 jersey played so well for Leinster throughout the URC and the Champions Cup, but now has to adjust straight back to how the All Blacks play. Now, the benefit is, at times, Leinster, this is going to be one of those comments that get me in trouble, but at times, they actually play a little bit similar to the All Blacks in terms of the way their attack is. So Geordie Barrett may not find himself too out of water in that number 12 jersey. He is going to be linking up with Billy Proctor, and one of the most important factors, I think, is to get Proctor the ball and then also for Proctor to shovel it on further. That is something that has lacked at times for this All Blacks team as of late. So yeah, midfield combo could be a dangerous one. I didn't mean to list two Barretts. I did actually mention Scott as well. So maybe I am Ian Foster just in disguise. France. The keys for them, I mentioned about him, Gavin Villiers. It's important that Severis has a good game defensively, but if he doesn't, Gavin Villiers should be able to have a field day. I think that Fiku and Gailleton midfield combination could actually be one of the main threats to the All Blacks defence as well. Billy Proctor, don't get me wrong, phenomenal player, but has not had a lot of time in the international jersey at number 13. All throughout last year, it was Rieko Ioane. So I do think on the counter-attack, that's where the All Blacks will be susceptible to a couple, maybe players out of position. I'm not saying it's going to be Billy Proctor, but maybe there will be just a bit of hesitation in terms of who should be where in that back line, and that's where France really will have to pounce. And then those two men that I mentioned off the bench, Cameron Waki as well as Romain Taufifenua, I think that those two individuals could bring quite a bit of impact, but the biggest problem for France will be if they've conceded too many early points, it may not matter when those two men make their way on, as it might be too much to be able to catch up. But looking at the last 5 times that these two sides played, now France, they've been doing pretty decently up against the All Blacks as of late. They beat them last year, 30 points to 20. That was in France for the November internationals. In 2023, France able to beat the All Blacks 27 points to 13. That was actually a part of that Rugby World Cup. In 2021, France were victorious 40 points to 25. The last time New Zealand were able to win up against the French was actually 49 points to 14 back in 2018. And they were able to win twice in 2018, but that was 7 years ago. So it's been a while. And with this slightly more makeshift French team, I would say that this is the best chance New Zealand will have in quite some time to be able to beat the French. And they may not just beat them once. If they can get that clean sweep, not only will they move a little bit higher up in the world rankings, but also it will bring a bit more confidence heading into that Rugby Championship, which I think this year, after what we've seen from Argentina in their warm-up game up against the British and Irish Lions, with the fact that Australia look like they're building pretty nicely, with the Box being dominant as always, this is going to be one of the most competitive Rugby Championships we have seen in quite some time. So everyone needs to bring their A game. Everyone wants to be in form, and I just hope for the sake of both of these sides, injuries don't play a part in this fixture. But it will be a 7:05 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night. Like I mentioned, only about 24 hours away from this match starting. It is down in Dunedin, so it might be a little bit cold, although I do think that anyone who is local to Dunedin will probably be used to that temperature by now. But it could be a bit of adjustment for the sides to start with, but it's under a roof, so no wind, no rain, and hopefully just a really good game of rugby to start the year. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Of course, do let me know who you think will win this game, as well as who you think your key players would be in this contest. We will be doing the live commentary on the channel too, so if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all for the next one.